On April 12, 2023, the 92-minute debut episode of Oshi no Ko was released to overwhelming praise by both critics and audiences alike. Just about every place I looked rated the show between 8.5 and 9.5 out of 10. Even my friend circles had almost universally positive reactions, and they aren't even the types to keep up with seasonal anime. So I figured I should probably check it out for myself and answer that all-important question. Why does everyone love Oshi no Ko? Oshi no Ko is an adaptation of the identically titled manga series by Aka Akasaka. The manga is ongoing, though it has been confirmed that an ending has been decided upon. I haven't read the manga personally, so this video will be judging the Oshi no Ko anime as a standalone product, not as an adaptation. The series ends up being a strange blend of idol anime and supernatural mystery, with a hint of high school drama thrown in there for good measure. If you haven't seen it, that probably sounds weird as hell, but just bear with me. Oshi no Ko starts off with an hour-and-a-half long premiere episode followed by 10 episodes at the standard 22 minutes to finish off the season. Episode 1 is entirely devoted to setting the stage, and it's pretty involved. After all, they took an hour and a half, a quarter of the overall runtime for the season, for what's basically the intro. There are a lot of twists and reveals in that first episode, and by necessity, I will have to spoil some of them. But I'll keep those spoilers to only the first episode, and I'll only be spoiling what I feel is absolutely necessary. It's minor in the grand scheme of things and shouldn't impact your enjoyment of the series, but a spoiler warning for as long as this icon is on screen. Our protagonist is a gynecologist at a rural hospital, and he is a massive idol otaku who is particularly obsessed with a 16-year-old idol named Ai Hoshino, who is the center of a unit called B Komachi. He got into idols because a former patient of his, a terminally ill little girl, was into them, and they bonded over B Komachi together. The girl eventually died, and he continued supporting Ai in her memory. Ai eventually made her way to this rural hospital heavily pregnant with twins, and the doctor takes care of her. However, shortly before she gives birth, the doctor ends up getting killed by a crazed stalker of Ai's who had tracked her down to the hospital. It's here where shit gets weird. The doctor gets reincarnated as Ai's son and is named Aquamarine, or Aqua for short. The little girl he took care of way back when is reincarnated as Ai's daughter and is named Ruby. Both retain the memories of their past life and both know about the other's reincarnation. However, neither knows who the other was in their past life. After several happy years, something big happens that I won't spoil here, and we get a time skip. The series proper begins, I would guess, around 6 to 8 years later, with the twins being on the cusp of starting high school. Ruby wants to follow in her mother's footsteps and become an idol, whereas Aqua suspects that the stalker who killed him has been fed information about Ai's whereabouts by his biological father, and he dedicates himself to tracking him down. The first thing I have to acknowledge about this series is the striking visuals. A cursory look will show vibrant colors, great character design, and beautiful animation. And it's more than just eye candy. From start to finish, the visuals enhance the story, adding a bit of flair to each and every scene. In particular, there were multiple times throughout my viewing that I had a genuine emotional reaction to how a character's eyes were animated. These visuals are accompanied by a stellar soundtrack. I'm not particularly into idols or J-pop, but I enjoyed all the musical segments in Oshi no Ko. Each one fit the tone of the surrounding scene, the tunes were all catchy, and though I'm far from an expert on these things, it all sounded pretty well produced. I think my favorite tracks are actually the OP and ED. The OP has this choral backing track that makes the song simultaneously poppy and ominous, and if you check out the lyrics or just listen to the English version of the song, you'll notice that it ties into a lot of the themes present in Ai's character arc. And nearly every episode capped off with the triumphant strings that appear in the first few bars of the ED, getting you really hyped up for the story that's about to kick off in the next episode. It was all really great stuff there. I can't show you what I mean because copyright, so consider checking it out for yourself. As I was watching Oshi no Ko, I was a little surprised after a while. See, the first episode set up the mystery element, with Aqua essentially dedicating his life to finding his father. However, that whole thing ends up taking a backseat to pretty much everything else. Rather than being the focal point of the series, which is what I expected, it serves more to guide the plot along than to actually lead it forward. Oshi no Ko is ultimately a story about these twins and some of the friends they make along the way navigating the glamorous but difficult and cruel reality of the entertainment industry, and let me tell you, it is densely packed and touches on many facets of the industry. One character's whole deal is struggling to transition from child actor to adult entertainer. The show explores the back end of working in a low-budget TV series with a director who doesn't care about artistry. There's an arc all about reality TV. Of course, there's a lot of focus on Ruby's aspiration to be an idol as well. Aqua's investigation ends up being the reason he does certain things and takes certain acting jobs, but then the show focuses on the individual conflicts and story arcs that take place during the course of those jobs. For example, Aqua agrees to take part in a reality TV show in exchange for information from somebody who once worked with Ai. That gets him into that situation where he can then be involved with an interesting story arc about public versus private personas, deceptive editing, and the effect of social media backlash. And that's another thing the show does well. It acknowledges the importance of social media in the modern world, and especially the modern entertainment industry. Gone are the days where upcoming idols handed out flyers on the street. Instead, they're building an online following and generating hype that way. It's relatively rare for any kind of popular story media to really acknowledge this reality, but Oshi no Ko absolutely embraces it. One story beat revolves around trying to get something trending on Twitter. There are multiple fictional YouTubers that have significant roles in the story. They discuss celebrities using scheduled posts on Instagram so they don't reveal their real-time location. One of the characters got her start as a popular TikToker who switched platforms due to TikTok's awful monetization system. Hell, they even on a few occasions showed in-universe screenshots of what is clearly 4chan, though they don't explicitly name-drop them. I've already mentioned that I'm not a huge idol person, and consequently, I don't particularly care for idol anime either. And while a big part of Oshi no Ko's story is about Aqua's acting career, Ruby's whole thing is that she wants to be just like her idol mother, who she worshipped in her past life and loves in her current life. So clearly, a big facet of the story going forward will be about her burgeoning idol career. But even though I'm not a fan of idol anime, I do like seeing these more nuanced and gritty depictions of the industry. And in fact, there were several points in the show that really made me think of Shining Song Star Nova, which is a visual novel that takes a more subversive look at idling, and longtime viewers of the channel know that I absolutely adore it. Every plot beat served to either make me experience a perspective I had never considered, or to make me intrigued by how the characters would react to their unique circumstances. And that leads me to what's probably Oshi no Ko's biggest strength. The characters, in my humble opinion, are fucking fantastic. There's Ruby, the peppy, enthusiastic one who wants to dive headfirst into the limelight to make up for all the time she was trapped in her previous body. Aqua is a bit of a kudera, though it's a bit non-standard given that he's a protagonist, so we actually get a direct window into his brain. But despite his cold outer persona, he is surprisingly caring, going through incredible lengths to help those around him when they need it through a combination of genuine kindness and subtle manipulation. He's very interesting. There's also Kana, former child actress who struggles to find work and is dealing with a bit of self-loathing as a result. This series is jam-packed with interesting and fun characters, including many I didn't even mention, and some who I'm pretty sure are currently just serving as setup for something bigger later on. But while these characters are all pretty good in their own right, where they shine is in how somehow every major character in this series has phenomenal chemistry. Each of these weird and quirky personality types meshes surprisingly well with the others, and the individual and group dynamics all have a unique feel to them, and more importantly, they all work really well together. Ruby does not interact with Kana the same way she does Aqua, and when the three of them are together, she's even different still. There was no grouping of characters that I felt dragged the show down in any real way, and the only time I was more invested in one group over another was when there was actively plot stuff happening with them. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I love character work, and Oshi no Ko's characters kept me engaged from start to finish. But of course, it would be unfair for me to only talk about the positives, as I believe that reviews should be as balanced as possible. Though I have to say, it's hard for me to come up with very many negatives about this series because I genuinely think there's not all that much that it doesn't do well. But the one thing that does kind of stick with me is that I'm a bit disappointed by how little the whole past lives thing comes into play. Especially when you consider that the few times it's referenced after the first episode, it's framed as central to Aqua and Ruby's character development. Ruby lives her life in the way she does because she spent her past life as a sick child who died extremely young. Now she has a chance to make up for that and to be like Ai, the person who got her through tough times when she was sick and loved her when she was reborn. Aqua was obsessed with Ai as a way of keeping the memory of Ruby's former life alive, and his current drive to hunt down his father, as well as his kudera personality, are spurred on by the hurt he feels that someone would sell her out and put her in danger. These are really important character-defining things, but it almost seems like the show forgets about it half the time. That's probably Oshi no Ko's biggest flaw at this point, though depending on how future seasons pan out, it could very well be rectified. After all, there are also some side characters in Season 1 that I think haven't been fleshed out yet, and I'm expecting them to have a bigger feature in the seasons to come. So I'm already anticipating that things will get reinforced and improved upon as we go, so it's not outrageous to suspect the same will be true with the reincarnation element. So overall, I have to say that Oshi no Ko in its current state gets my full recommendation. It looks and sounds great, has an incredibly fascinating premise, and uses that premise to deliver a fun plot with amazing characters, and some pretty solid comedic segments to contrast the serious moments. I will absolutely be watching future seasons as they come out, and in all likelihood I'll probably be checking out the manga as well, though I may or may not wait until it's fully finished. But yeah, Oshi no Ko is pretty damn good, and you should consider checking it out. Thanks for watching. Big thank you to my patrons, especially my God tier supporters, Bulk Squat Thrust and Michael Rotolo. If you'd like to join them and support the channel, Patreon link is in the description. Do like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe for more in the future. I'm going to try to get shorter anime reviews like this out every week or two so that I can at least get something out to you in the interim when I'm working on videos that take a bit longer. If you have any suggestions for series and movies to check out, please leave them in the comments. I do read them all, so I'll at least consider it. Well, with all that being said, thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Play the electro swing.
I hate ads.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more.